Hello fellas, you voted for it, so here are my personal picks for the worst dinosaur design in every single Jurassic Park movie and TV show that is out currently. If you want my thoughts on Rebuff's designs, I already posted a video recently that has just that. It won't be included here, as I'm sure there are many dinosaurs we're yet to see. I am also not basing my picks purely off of accuracy. It still plays an important role in my decision making, nature does it best after all, but creativity and pure vibes still matter to me. Whether that actually reflects in my choices, I guess we'll have to see. For the first movie, the Parasaurolophus that appear in the background of the Welcome to Jurassic Park scene definitely have the potential to be the worst design here. Many of them appear to have pretty thin, awkward looking necks and limbs, but I can't get a good enough look at them in the movie to form a concrete opinion. So instead, I must turn my attention to the Triceratops. Features that drag down this design include the almost malformed looking frill that's flattened to the body, the stubby elephant-like feet and toes, the wrinkled cheeks sealing away most of the jaw, and the forward placement of the eyes and horns looks a little off as well, especially in proportion to the frill size. On top of that, this is one of the most disappointing of the original designs when it comes to coloration. Trike isn't the only dinosaur in this movie to just have simple brown colors, but ceratopsian frills are one of the most customizable dinosaur things ever, so it's even more of a missed opportunity here. I do like how the horns show a lot of wear and tear, being quite cracked and chipped up, something that they never did again with the exception of the Sinoceratops nasal horn, and I feel like it still came out better than other depictions of Triceratops in the same franchise, but I would still consider it the weakest of the 1993 designs. The Lost World was one of the trickier ones to decide for at first, but that was until I decided to take a closer look at the Pteranodon. I'm not sure why, but I'd made the mistake of thinking they were similar enough to the ones in JP3, a design that I had no real issues with except for the inclusion of teeth, and just ignored it due to that and the little amount of screen time it has, but now that I'm paying attention, I am not a fan. The beak, the neck, the legs, and the way that they bend when it lands, everything looks so spindly, fragile, and kind of unsettling. The beak also seems to rest in a perpetually open state, which would make sense considering the odd shape it has. Thankfully, this thing got a mere 15 seconds of screen time. Jurassic Park 3's worst design is almost certainly the Ceratosaurus. It's built with far too much bulk, an ugly, boxy, and incorrect skull, and its defining feature has been reduced to a single erect bone spike on the front of the snout, as opposed to a triple whammy of crests with a lot of potential for fun and interesting shapes. It's often referred to as a T-Rex with a horn, and funnily enough, that's exactly what it is. Model supervisor Ken Bryan confirmed this on one of the DVD releases. The worst part is that this was likely used as a source of inspiration for other depictions of Ceratosaurus, like Dinosaur King. Though again, just like Triceratops, this isn't the worst one to come out of this franchise. If I'm to say anything nice, it's that I can somewhat appreciate what they were trying to do with the colours, and also my JWE Ceratocala was very important to me. On to the modern era with Jurassic World, the one that makes me glad this isn't a best designs video, because having to compliment anything that this movie set out would bring me at least some degree of discomfort. There are two in particular that I see as rightful contenders for the tip of the trash pile. Ultimately though, I felt that the Apatosaurus had it worse. It's a sickly, sad shell of an incredible animal. Its thin, muscleless neck and other limbs presented as weak and pathetic. It has an ugly, shrink-wrapped head, appears to have those elephant-like feet, and is often posed with a curved back and drooping neck that can make it look more like it time-traveled from the 60s than something made within the past decade. It's a roughly sauropod-shaped grey wrinkly trash bag, and its entire purpose in the movie is for a dozen of them to die in a field, completely unable to defend themselves. What a bunch of hippy-dippy baloney. Going forward, I want to also cover this era's biggest downgrades, since it's hard to truly do justice regarding how I feel about the new designs when restricting myself to just one dinosaur. Jurassic World 2015's biggest downgrade is the Stegosaurus. Taking what is probably the Lost World's best design, one that still holds up fairly well today, and pulling it back into being a hunched-over tail dragger, a myth that Jurassic Park helped to dispel, malnourished, and seemingly beakless. In Fallen Kingdom, the Sinoceratops takes it. Between the elephant feet making their return, probably the worst here out of any Jurassic creature, an overly long tail, a beak that looks like it's wrapped in foreskin, the oversized frill with a pair of holes you could blow a bubble through, and an only slightly less sad attempt at doing colour that is completely ruined by, just in case you missed it the first time, poking holes in the frill. It's not too hard to find problems with this design. This movie's downgrade is actually not from a previous entry. Funnily enough, the Jurassic World website had a certain fish eater on it, complete with nice colours, good proportions in anatomy, arms that aren't pronated, and some quills for a bit of extra spice, all while still looking like it'd fit in with other Jurassic creatures. 3 years later, it makes its way into the movies and... Huh. I see. I don't even have to say anything, man, just fucking look at it. Look at that, and then look at this. Camp Cretaceous adds the most new dinosaurs out of anything we're going to talk about, and while most of them are necessary to keep the 5-season-long show fresh and interesting, one that definitely did not need to exist is the Hidden Adventure Special's Tarbosaurus. Tarbo is mostly recognized as being what is basically just a smaller, slimmer T-Rex, which is naturally why the bright minds behind this episode made their Tarbo just as big, if not bigger than the T-Rex, as well as bulkier and adorned with edgy, off-putting spikes and osteoderms. This looks like the kind of design that Jurassic World the game would give to a T-Rex once it hits level 40, and then for some reason it's got these weirdly thin teeth. Really don't quite get what they were going for here, or why they even made it in the first place, considering it not only doesn't do anything in this episode that the T-Rex couldn't have done, but also dies in a very anticlimactic battle after just a few minutes of screen time. And the dinosaur to take the biggest hit in this show is certainly the Spinosaurus. Its pretty distinct coloration was dumbed down into essentially just a boring brown and white countershade, with any additional color or pattern variation being a lot harder to notice. The head looks pretty weird too. It appears sucked in while simultaneously keeping all of its chub. It has this rough, rocky texture covering its skin and extending up the sail for whatever reason, and these creepy, spindly fingers. Worst of all though, while not a visual design element, is the almost complete removal of all of its unique sound effects, especially the longer calls. In favor of screechy roars and other unrelated noises that don't sound as interesting or imposing. Jurassic World Dominion was the culmination of everything that came before it, which is why they made sure to give us the Crocosaurus glupshitus final boss before the saga ended, one that canonically has a pure prehistoric genome no less. This thing is lathered in osteoderms and spikes, some of which make up this dumb looking sail on its back. The head looks odd, its arms lack muscle and look wimpy as shit, it's lipless and has those messed up Indo-type teeth, looking like its mouth is perpetually open to accommodate them. Then, to put the cherry on top of the fecal matter ice cream, it was of course given the most creative colour set possible of greys and browns. This thing is really in a league of its own. It's so out there in its design that I can't even imagine a fixed version of it. Apparently they had a more accurate and just overall less freaky looking Giga, but ended up changing it to what we got due to test audiences confusing it for the T-Rex, which not only makes for some comedic irony as a lot of casual audience members ended up thinking it wasn't even a real dinosaur, but is such a cowardly thing to do when you had the perfect opportunity to fight against the common viewpoint and educate people like Spielberg's movie did. Instead, you chose this. Cool. Dilophosaurus was this movie's biggest downgrade. I already talked about this in my Rebirth video, but the coloration on Dominion's Dilo is so much duller and less interesting than the original design. And while you can only really see the extent of how boring it is by looking at renders and behind the scenes footage due to how dark its scenes were, it's pretty disappointing regardless. They also seem to have washed away some of the distinctive sharpness present in its head shape and features. Not really a change exclusive to Dominion, but it makes it look that bit more like any other carnivore you might see. Our final piece of Jurassic media is the still ongoing Chaos Theory show, which just got a trailer for its 3rd season at the time of making this. My pick for this show is going to be the Beckel Spinax. In all honesty, I don't even dislike this one that much, but it continues multiple previous carnivore design trends, the head is off, and it just came out the least appealing to me out of everything else in the show. One of its biggest problems has nothing to do with the design. Beckel hasn't been a valid species for years, which is going to be a bit confusing for people, especially kids that take a liking to it. They should have named it Altispinax instead, which is considered the correct genus, or even Concavinator. Chaos Theory technically doesn't have a downgrade, as I don't think anything has received any notable changes. The closest would be the Suchomimus looking a bit worse than it does on a trading card. With that being said, I'm just going to take an opportunity to talk about one that was changed previously but didn't quite make the cut, the T-Rex. There are some changes with its overall model that began with Jurassic World, like the less impressive, softer and more cartoonish physique and face, but the animated shows are special with how much they degrade even this less pleasing model with their animation and posing. There's a comedic amount of horrifically unflattering and stupid looking shots of Rexes in especially the later seasons, with dislocated jaws or goofy expressions. Coupled with the super forced badass action star energy it was infused with, makes Rex really hard to take seriously in this franchise now. Well, those were my picks. parks. If you disagree or have your own list to share, let me know in the comments. No, I'm not becoming a Jurassic Park channel. I still have many videos with more standard ShiftTV topics coming your way, but if this one does as well, if not better than my previous posts, then I'm happy to keep visiting this franchise as well. There's a poll up now in my post tab, similar to the one used to create this video, where you can vote on what you want to see soon. I'd like to make more of a habit of involving you guys in the ShiftTV channel, so go participate in that if you'd like, as well as the form linked in the description for a dinosaur game reviewing series, and thanks for watching.